A cold front and thunderstorms have arrived in Texas, while parts of the Gulf of Mexico are going to have a big problem in a few days with what will become Hurricane Helene. Let's talk about it in this Monday edition of the Texas Weather Roundup. Good morning. It is Monday, the 23rd of September, 2024. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Baldy in Chief David Reimer. We have had a cold front move through the northwestern half of Texas yesterday into early this morning, bringing scattered showers and thunderstorms to parts of the Panhandle, West Texas, the Permian Basin, the Trans-Pecos, Northwest Texas, the Big Country, into Texoma, North Texas. Well, where is it going to go this afternoon? Let's talk about it. Here's the high-res rapid refresh model for today, tonight, into Tuesday. This model thinks we're going to see a downward trend in thunderstorm coverage by later this morning, which could happen, but so far storms have been maintaining themselves pretty nicely across parts of Texoma, North Texas, into the Big Country. Regardless, that front is just about ready to stall out as it loses steam, so it probably won't make it too much further southeast, maybe another 50 to 100 miles before stalling out. Regardless, if you're northwest of that front, temperatures much nicer than southeast. The southeastern half of the state essentially will remain in summertime weather, while northwestern half of the state, another taste of fall, which after our first taste about 2 weeks ago, I think y'all will be okay with it. Regardless, this model may be underdoing some of these scattered showers and storms today, tonight, and then another opportunity Tuesday night into Wednesday as a reinforcing cool front makes its way south out of Kansas and Oklahoma. You can kind of see that on here, but again, it may be underdoing some of the rain. Wildfire danger over the next several days across the state of Texas from the Texas A&M Forest Service diminished thanks to the recent rains and cooler weather, mostly low to moderate. And forecast rain totals from, well, this morning through the weekend. I updated this and it did not update on here. So give me just a second. We'll do this in real time. And there you go. Here's the updated forecast rain totals. Generally speaking, the potential for up to 1 inch of rain locally, parts of the Arklatex, East Texas, the Brazos Valley, coastal portions of the upper Texas Gulf Coast, southeast Texas, and maybe back into parts of central Texas, the Concho Valley, Edwards Plateau, maybe some folks getting lucky with another 1.5 to 2 inches of rain. But again, that will be spread out over what could be today, Tuesday, into Wednesday. So we're not talking about all this happening today, but the opportunity for some activity will continue. Now, let's talk about what is going to become Helene and is probably going to be a significant problem for parts of the eastern Gulf of Mexico. This system has a 90% probability of becoming a tropical cyclone for all intent and purposes in the next 12 to 18 hours in the Western Caribbean. From there, most of what you're looking at here, because we don't have an official forecast graphic from the National Hurricane Center at this point, they haven't initialized advisories. This is a compilation of all the, well, pretty much the European weather model, the American weather model, longer range, and the United Kingdom weather model, all their ensemble models, which is a lot, superimposed on a graphic that then uses AI/machine learning data to create essentially a most likely corridor of threat, which is highlighted in that blue circle. This is being done by a very smart University of Oklahoma student/meteorologist. So essentially you can see it really tries to go right through that strait between the Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba, which would keep it over the warm waters. We'll see if that happens. It probably will. Conditions, unlike for Francine, where the system was slower to develop, had to deal with drier air and increasing wind shear as it made landfall in Louisiana, this, unfortunately, may be setting up to be one of these really not good situations where we could have a rapidly intensifying system going from nothing, as it is right now, an area of thunderstorms, to what unfortunately could be a Category 3 plus hurricane, making landfall somewhere between, let's just say realistically, the Florida Panhandle, maybe the Alabama Gulf Coast, maybe to the western coast of Florida in 3 days by Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon. I don't like to be hypey, for the lack of a more educated term, but this kind of could be a situation where we have a Michael repeat, or another one of these situations where we're going to go from a tropical storm to, again, this really could easily become a category 3, 4 plus hurricane before landfall. Let's see what it does today in terms of getting organized, but unfortunately, we've got very hot ocean temperatures, very little in the way of wind shear, and a majority, if not nearly all, weather model guidance is suggesting this will undergo very rapid intensification over the coming days before making landfall Thursday afternoon, probably somewhere either in the Florida Panhandle or the west coast of Florida. That being said, we're going to keep an eye on it in case that track shifts a little west, but at this point, I expect no direct impacts to the state of Texas. We're likely, in fact, going to see some northwesterly winds continue, which would bring in a more fall-like air mass to the state again by midweek. Florida coast, again, this is going to be a pretty large hurricane in terms of the wind field size, so we're going to have a lot of water getting pushed towards the coastline. So even though, say, if this makes landfall in the Panhandle, we're still going to see a lot of water pushed towards the west coast of Florida, Tampa Bay, places like that. So unfortunately, this is probably going to be a very high impact situation for our friends in Florida. And if this shifts west, even parts of the Alabama, Mississippi Gulf Coast, perhaps. But at this point, we're probably going to see some pretty large scale evacuations ordered, probably, I would guess, tomorrow, so Tuesday into Wednesday, depending on the exact track of this thing. But it's going to be a large hurricane, which means we're going to have a large wind field, a lot of wind, a lot of water. And again, this is probably going to bomb out, meaning the minimum central pressure is going to drop extremely quickly, resulting in rapid intensification. We'll have a National Hurricane Center. I suspect they'll be issuing the first forecast, if not later this morning, by this afternoon. And again, this is probably not going to end well for somebody here in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. But no direct impacts to Texas. We note after it makes landfall Thursday, an area of high pressure across the northeastern United States may push the remnants west. So we might have a few showers try to encroach on East Texas as we get into Friday and Saturday. Maybe. We'll have to see. But again, by far, this is going to be a very, very big newsmaker as we continue through the week in the United States. For us back in Texas, we've got our cool front. And with it, we're going to have cooler temperatures. Today's high temperatures mostly in the 70s to about 80 degrees across the northwestern half of Texas. 85 in El Paso, 78 in Amarillo, 76 in Lubbock, 77 in Midland, Odessa, Abilene, Sweetwater, 82 in Sanderson, 78 Fort Stockton, about 78 in San Angelo, 70 in Wichita Falls. We're looking at 82 in DFW. Southeastern half of the state, again, I'm afraid y'all are going to see much from this front today. So 96 to 97 in San Antonio, 94 in Austin, about 87 in Waco, 93 in Houston, 90 Longview, Marshall, 82 in Paris, 88 Texarkana, 93 Wichita Falls, 93 in Corpus Christi, 90 in Brownsville, 96 in both McAllen and Laredo. So we'll go into tomorrow, a little warmer across the northwestern half of the state before our next front arrives Tuesday night and Wednesday, but mostly back up in the 80s. So it could be worse. Upper 80s to low 90s. And then our reinforcing shot arrives Wednesday, northern half of the state, back down into the upper 70s, low 80s, still 90 El Paso, 90s Del Rio to San Antonio to Houston, south into South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, the Texas Gulf Coast. Bit warmer on Thursday in the Trans-Pecos, 91 in El Paso, still 70s to 80s. Northern two-thirds of the state, with that front stalling just north of Interstate 10 by probably 50 to 75 miles, meaning about 88 to 90 in Houston, 92 in San Antonio, about 89 Austin, 85 Waco, 82 DFW, 78 in Texarkana. And then as we get back into Friday, and I have to update this. It didn't update on its own accord because technology and I just don't get along. We're looking at mostly upper 70s to middle 90s across the state. And as we go into the final days of September and the first days of October, the Climate Prediction Center forecasting probably near or above average temperatures across the state, which by early October means highs upper 80s, low 90s, and then likely we'll see below average precipitation chances, which makes sense, especially if we end up having that hurricane east of us helping to drag in a more continental dry air mass into the weekend. So that's going to be it for your Texas weather roundup this morning. Again, we will have scattered showers and storms continue today, tomorrow night into Wednesday, but by far the biggest weather impacts are going to be probably Florida, the eastern Gulf of Mexico, for what could become a very dangerous Hurricane Helene. So we're really worried about that. And I know you may not have heard much about it yet, but you will probably. So we'll likely, as the state emergency resources, I have very little doubt we're going to be activating our Texas Task Force 1 USAR responses. And we're probably going to have to send resources to Florida to help them out ahead of and then after the hurricane. So we'll definitely be keeping them in our thoughts and prayers. We'll have a live stream up with live hurricane satellite, the latest on Helene, once the system forms, so probably later today. And yes, we're going to have multiple storm chasers heading to Florida or the eventual landfall location to document and live stream to the best of their abilities the landfall of Helene. So we'll keep you updated on that. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in this morning. We'll keep you updated on our weather. Y'all have a great day. God bless.